Good morning, Grant County. You're listening to the Jim and Tater Show on KOOT 88.1 FM, Hurley, New Mexico. Good morning, Jim.
Hi there.
I'm Tater.
I'm Jim.
Who the heck are you?
I'm Jim.
Well, do I know you?
Yeah, I dodged all the bullets, man.
I'm pretending I don't know anybody since the war is taken to the streets.
What do we call this one? We can't call it the war on terror. We can't call it the war on drugs. Is this the war on American tourists?
The war on the the war against the psychotropic police action?
No.
Which war are you talking about?
Well, the psychotropic police action is what we now call the formerly war on drugs. But what's going on down south of the border, what do we call that? That was funny.
Total chaos and mayhem. I don't know.
I don't know either.
It's just, like you said, it's like the days of the bootleggers. We've got these guys killing each other in the street, throwing grenades and stuff.
I got in a pickle the other day because I was spouting off about that war down there, and there's a local business guy that depends on tourists coming into town, and he didn't like what I was saying. He told me to shut up.
Joe's got an idea for instead of anti-terrorist, anti-tourist. There's an anti-tourist war going on. We're just sick and tired of people coming here and spending money.
Instead of the war on terror, we call it the war on tourists.
Turistas, you must die.
Yes.
Like dogs in the street.
We cut your head off, you infidel.
You ever read that newspaper from the I don't know, back in right before World War I or during World War I when Pancho came across that little border incursion down here? And the headline in the newspaper was something like Americans die like dogs in the street, or something. It was a terrible headline.
Kind of like the things they're saying about us in the Middle East now.
Like what?
Yeah, like, die, you American pigs.
Yeah. Well, I hear we're gonna have a visit. We're going to actually go live today to the First Church of the Last Chance. Is that right?
Yeah, but later on sometime, I guess, toward the end of the show.
What's going on at the church today?
Well, there was a message that I gave at the church last Sunday, and it's pretty controversial. So
really?
I wanted to have a recording done of it so we could do it on the show, because I think a little controversy never hurt anybody.
Don't want to spoil it, but is there any clue, any little teaser you can give us? Or
the only teaser I'm going to give you is that if folks will just listen to the message and then at the end come to a conclusion of their own, we have to find a solution to a particular problem. If we don't, I believe that we're done. I mean, you just stick a fork in America, it's over, baby.
Right. It's like I heard somebody saying the other day, if kids want to learn a work ethic, when they get out of school, they should leave Silver City and go somewhere and get a job and learn a work ethic. And I'm thinking,
why do they have to leave here to go learn a work ethic?
What's this premise? What's this premise that you can't learn it here? Why couldn't we change things here and, pay people what they're worth? You should be able to learn a work ethic by the time you get out of high school. I had 4 or 5 jobs by the time I graduated.
My friend, I had a work ethic before I was 10.
I was mowing lawns when I was 12. By the time I was 14, I was washing dishes at a nursing home, illegally. But when I was 14 that summer mowing lawns, I went and bought a $700 electric bass and amplifier for myself because I wanted it, and I saved up all summer.
I got one for you, Tater.
What?
I sold grit.
Did you sell
I sold grit.
Did you sell the American's favorite newspaper?
Yes, sir.
Oh my God!
I sold grit. I sold spud nuts.
Did you ever do Fuller brushes? Were you ever?
No, I never did Fuller brush, but I did Electro-Voice or Electrolux vacuum cleaners.
I sold Kirby vacuums.
I sold Electrolux. We did this deal. This guy that I worked under, he was teaching me about the business. Can I go there?
Oh, please.
He was a real schemer, baby. I mean, I had never done any sales in my life, and it was like 1966. There were no jobs. If you could find a job.
And this is door to door, or were the appointments set?
There were appointments set up. They'd run an ad in the paper. Okay. They had like a
free room cleaned in your house.
Oh no, it was better than that. It was you could have your own electric automatic sewing machine. It will zigzag, it will applique, it will buttonhole, and it's only $19.95 with this $20 off coupon. Well, people would call in and say, I got the coupon.
I want that sewing machine.
Well, we'll send a man out, we'd book an appointment, and we would go out on an appointment, see. And this guy would walk in the door, and he'd set this little piece of Pelosi sewing machine up, and he would do zigzag and applique and buttonhole, but what he was doing was just moving the fabric around, see. The machine didn't do nothing but go up and down,
right.
And he just moved the fabric.
But he knew how to do it.
And, of course, the little old housewife, she'd say, well, wait a minute, I thought that was like an automatic thing. And he's going, no, this is our manual model, but, oh, you want automatic? would you give me a minute? He'd go out and get this $119 thing out of the car. And he'd sell it to her. And he'd sell it to her at like $3 a week. And he'd have to drive over there and collect this money. I worked for that boy one day and quit. I said, man, what a scheme. What a scam.
All those door-to-door things are.
Bait and switch.
They're old con games that go back to the days of the snake oil. They really do.
Kind of like the local government does with us. Bait and switch.
And you don't see the motivational speakers they set up for you.
Yeah.
Come here, I got a little something for you. Hold your hand out.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think you're going to like these. I think this is, now don't say what they are. Okay, but you and I are gonna do a handful of this together. All right, now this moment is brought to you by Brock's.
You know what that reminds me of?
That's pretty good stuff, isn't it?
No, I don't know. It reminds me of.
It says, "Taste the explosion, baby."
I don't know if I go quite that far.
Oh my God! It's like blowing up in my throat.
Oh, gee, that stuff's nasty, man.
This is worse than the war on drugs.
Is this what you do for entertainment?
When I think about blowing my head off, I just need a big mouthful of these and kind of get rid of the urge. Kind of helps my suicidal tendencies.
That just kind of reminds me of a sucker I ate once at a dryer.
Brock's rule. What, you had a summer job?
No, I said it reminds me of a sucker that I ate one time that had gone through the dryer.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
It wasn't all that good.
Listen, I got a message for parents of teenage girls in Grant County.
Yeah.
Especially the ones that are under...
Don't let your daughters come near Tater.
Wait a minute. No, I have a message for you. If they're going to wear hot pants and a little halter top and show off their newly sprouted growth... Please don't let him walk down Bullard straight in the middle of the afternoon on a summer day.
Oh.
You're going to give someone a heart attack. And
Isn't that awful?
It might be Tater. You may not even have a radio show anymore.
Isn't that awful?
I mean, standing down there.
Have you noticed like 15 is so much older than it used to be?
15 will get you 20 now. It's more like 12.
It's unbelievable what they let these kids dress up like, you know.
I was looking at this one girl the other day, and I'm thinking to myself, man, I hope my girlfriend looks like that when she turns 14. You're listening.
That was good.
To the Tater and Jim Show.
Jim and Tater.
On KOOT 88.1 FM, Hurley, New Mexico.
Nobody knows if nobody sees.
Eagles, a death metal title track from the Hard On album. I'm Tater.
I'm Jim.
Jim, I noticed that finally fuel prices have come down here around town.
Yeah, they came down.
What a relief. 10 cents per gallon. Woo!
I'm telling you, but what's going on in the rest of the world regarding gas?
I don't know. You said you had somebody call you from up in the Midwest?
Well, yeah, I got friends, all over the countryside. And they call me and we talk about what's going on there, what's going on here.
That's got to be an exaggeration, but go ahead.
No, I got 5 friends, man. Don't pick on me.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Anyhow, one of my buddies calls me up last night from back in Ohio, and we're talking about gas. And he said, man, you ain't going to believe this. He says, I went to bed Sunday night. Gas prices were $2.95. And he said, I woke up Monday morning and went into town to get a donut, and gas prices were $2.20. A 75-cent drop in one day while he was sleeping. Now, here in this place, because we got an oil monopoly lording over us, we've watched since March as the price of gas went up from, what was it, $1.89?
Yeah, it was under $2.
Okay. And then it went all the way up to $2.69. And now it's down over 20% in the last 10 days. We've seen a 10-cent drop. What really pisses me off is that we'll see gas go up. Every time it goes up $1 at the barrel, it goes up a dime at the pump. Have you watched that?
Oh, that's a very direct correlation there.
Yes,
on
there
the
is.
Upside,
it goes up $1 at the barrel. It goes up a dime at the pump.
I have
It
noticed
has
that.
come down $13.50 in the last 10 days.
Where's our dimes?
Where's our $1.30?
I said 13 dimes.
Well, that is 13 dimes the same thing as $1.30?
In my book,
I didn't go very far in school,
It's
I had a hard enough time remembering my lunch.
13 times, and they dropped the price a dime.
Yes, a dime.
$13.
A dime. Like I said before, there is a special little room reserved in hell for these people that are gouging their neighbors over gasoline.
Well, isn't this also price fixing? If we've got, within a 24-hour period, every gas station in town drops their price the same amount, and everyone still always has the same price of gas, no matter where you go.
Well, it's not price fixing. What it is a violation of the Sherman Antitrust Act.
Please go on, yes.
The thing that Teddy Roosevelt used to break up the monopolies.
Mm-hmm.
See, in that law, and I happen to know this because my wife did a lot of work around this area, but in that law, if you are in any way in a conspiracy to fix prices, that is a violation of the Antitrust Act. And as well as I do, there ain't no way in the world every price in this town could change at the same time the way it does, unless these old boys are sitting in a gas station somewhere going, well, how much we going to gouge them today?
Let's wait till tomorrow. Let's go ahead and leave the price like it is for another day or two. I'll talk to you then. Yeah.
Let's just make them squirm a while.
Meet me up at the what do you call that? I'm trying to think of it.
The gas and go.
Meet me at the Polar Bear Lounge, and we'll talk about it.
Yeah. That's what they do. They've got to be doing that. I've been here 4 years, and it never fails.
They do
when one goes up, they all go up.
If they're not doing it on the phone, they're doing it in the back rooms of these private clubs at night while they're drinking and smoking and playing. Yeah. They're gambling, whatever they're doing.
You got it, baby. And what are they gambling with? All that money they gouged off the good citizens in Grant County.
Oh, you don't think?
Oh, no.
I love the idea of a special place in hell just for them. I mean, these are your neighbors, people.
Hey, I'll guarantee you one thing. That room's going to be climate controlled.
I came to LA to make rock and roll. Along the way I had to sell my soul. I made some good friends that make me say I really wanna be in LA. I took the 10 to get to Beverly, laid some rock to tape, roll out 180. Alan and Natasha always make me say I really wanna be in LA. rock and roll. Along the way I had to sell my soul. I made some good friends that make me say, I really wanna be in LA. I really wanna be in LA. I really wanna be, really wanna be, really wanna be in LA.
Eagles of death metal. I want to be in LA. I don't know why. Why would you want to be in LA when you can be here in Silver City? You're listening to the Tater and Jim Show.
Jim and Tater Show.
On KOOT 88.1 FM, Hurley, New Mexico. I'd like to welcome our new sponsor, Drag-On Motors, a used car dealer at 1505 Highway 180 East. If you want to, call 388-4767. Mike, Gene, or myself, Tater. Quality pre-inspected cars, used cars, I said, at Drag-On Motors, or Dragon Motors, whichever you prefer. Would like to welcome you as a sponsor to the Jim and Tater Show. I'm Tater.
I'm Jim.
Jim, here's somebody stepped on your free speech rights again.
Well, you know what? There is a condition in this place that just baffles me.
Why are you so uptight about your free speech rights?
Well, I don't know. I guess maybe it's because where I come from, they take it very, very serious.
Where's that?
Back east of the Mississippi
Fredonia?
River.
Oh, no.
You know, they got a slogan up in New Hampshire. It says, live free or die. I guarantee you the folks here wouldn't abide by that.
You Yankees have some weird ideas about free speech.
Yeah, we sure do.
Tell me what happened up there.
Well, I was just at this place, and I'm talking, as I generally do, and I'm talking to the proprietor, and there's some idiot there who's a customer, and he doesn't like what I'm saying.
Now, that's your opinion.
No, I've actually been in the company of this guy for 4 years. This man's an idiot. All right, he thinks he's really smart. That's where the delusion takes over. But he's always finding some very nasty, cutting, snide remark for anything I have to say, and just in deference to the owner, I just ignore the guy. But after 4 years, okay, I'm there the other day, and I'm saying something to the owner, and he had to step away to go take care of another customer. And when he did, this bozo tells me to shut up.
So what, you almost did another fight again? Or what?
Well, I looked him straight in the eye, and I said, I got an idea, partner. Why don't you come right on out there in the street outside and shut me up? And I walked out the door. I turned around about halfway, and I looked back there. He's wearing a Bwana hat. I said, yeah, come on, bring your Bwana hat, and let's get this thing settled right now. He wouldn't get off the stool.
I'll tell you what, this country was founded on these kinds of principles, but we're letting them go down the drain.
Help me understand something. Why is it here in New Mexico, the only place I've ever been where this actually applies, they take offense if you have a different opinion than they do, and they call themselves the diversity crowd.
That's where political correctness has brought us now.
Yes, it is.
Nothing against the left or the right or anyone in particular, except these people who are afraid to offend. Okay, I don't want to go too far into horse racing, but it was just a few years ago they began to call the little eye things, we can't call them blinders anymore. They're now called blinkers.
Blinkers, right. Well, that's why I changed the name of the war on drugs, and we now call it a what?
It's a psychotropic police action. But
psychotropic police action.
Back to the horsies, okay?
Horses.
What was I? And around the first turn, it's Tater Todd, followed by...
Here comes Jim. Always picking up the rear.
Always seems to be... Anyway, that's actually pretty funny, Jim. Thank you. Oh... He's full of, he's full of horse dementia. Oh, God. Try to control you. But give this man a horse tranquilizer, someone.
Give me some Dippervan and some Jesus juice, baby. Calm me down.
Here's the deal. Don't people realize that there are people, not as many as there are blind, I'm sure, but there are people who are afflicted with a disease that causes them to have to blink constantly. We're not afraid to offend the blinkers, but don't offend the blind people with blinders. You see how ridiculous this is? Where does it stop?
I'm all about offending people with blinders.
Well, exactly. Or earplugs.
It's that old...
Or they want to put a cork in your mouth.
Yeah, that old adage, my mind is made up. Don't you try to confuse me with facts, Junior.
Remember a man named Pete Townsend and a band called The Who?
The Who?
They wrote a rock opera called Tommy about a deaf, dumb, and blind pinball wizard kind of boy. Tommy's holiday camp that he finally starts at the end to teach other people how to gain enlightenment through pinball, deaf, dumb, and blindness.
Mm-hmm.
Put in your Put on your eye shades, put in your earplugs, you know where to put the cork.
That's right, baby, that's right.
We're not gonna take it. Okay, what's he saying? If you really want to make it in this society,
Open your eyes.
Make sure you're deaf, dumb, and... Well, right. He's not telling everyone to be deaf, dumb, and blind, is he? He's saying...
being sarcastic.
You think?
Do you think?
Pete Townsend knows a few things about censorship.
That's why I said we ought to take the Roadrunner off the status of state bird and replace him with the ostrich. It's so much more appropriate.
I know. Tell me about it. But what else we got going on for the weekend? Anything?
Well, I'm going to have to get out my flak jacket.
Everybody, yeah, we need to all don our grenade-proof serapes.
Grenade-proof serape. I like
that way you can go down there and get your drugs at Palomas. And
do they sell like Kevlar serapes down there in Juarez now?
I don't know. Maybe the one of these old surplus stores around somewhere has some.
Maybe.
The Mexican Army at some point must have manufactured some grenade-proof serapes. They had to. And sombreros, kind of pith helmet style.
You can't say pith on the radio.
Pith helmet. Anyway,
listen, Junior. You got to be careful what you say. We got free speech, but don't use it.
I'm over here eating a little microwave popcorn. Do you mind?
Eating popcorn? You mean you're eating while you're talking to me on the radio?
Do you want any more Pink Rocks, or are you good?
No, I had my fill today, thank you.
Okay.
From the Pink Rock food group.
Right. I got a Tour de Friends update.
Tour de Friends? Come on.
Tour de Friends.
Wait a minute, wait.
The Tour de Friends is a group I've started since none of us are good enough to race the Tour de France. So there's a couple of gals and a guy, and we get on mountain bikes. And yesterday we did a 5-hour ride up to Bear Mountain and back in the rain and the mud. And 20 minutes into the ride, everyone is soaking wet.
And Tater remembered he's not 19 anymore.
Oh, you have no idea how good it felt to stomp all these people, and I'm 20 years older than them. I slaughtered them. But the deal is, the best part about it was watching these two girls ride their bikes while they're soaking wet.
Well, that's why you were riding from the rear.
I was bringing up the rear a little bit. Yeah, I took the lead when I needed.
That's what I like about you. You're a dog.
I'm like, wait up, girls. Could you slow down a little?
In the dictionary, right next to the word dog, they got a picture of you.
You better believe it, baby. Because I'm Tater. Hear me roar.
Yeah!
Anyway, you're listening
to the Jim and Tater Show.
Tater and Jim.
Jim and Tater.
The Tater and Jim Show.
Jim and Tater!
Whatever.
On
KOOT 88.1 FM, Hurley, New Mexico, your community radio, baby. Eagles of Death Metal. That's Kiss the Devil of Peace, Love, Death Metal. And you're listening to the Jim and Tater Show.
Welcome back to the Jim and... What was your name again?
Who are you talking to?
Jim and Tater Show. That's right.
Okay. Hello? Who? What's going on? I'm Tater.
I'm Jim.
That was an uncomfortable pause there, wasn't it? I mean,
kind of like reminds me of my first 6th grade dance.
Oh God, no. Well, it's like when you put a bunch of bleeps in a show, you end up with a bunch of annoying bleeps. Why don't we just put a bunch of dead air on here? That's hard to censor dead air.
Here you go. Here you go. Welcome to the Jim and Show.
And
I'm Jim.
Hi, Jim.
How you doing there?
Isn't
this great?
Yeah.
It's almost like a Hitchcock movie. That's what I said.
And then later
if you don't, you know I'm going to.
That's what she said.
Uh-huh.
So anyway.
Anyhow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Talking to breakfast this morning. I talk to my breakfast a lot, actually.
Yeah.
Sitting there with a waffle sandwich or something. And start talking to I guess is he a committee member, a city council member?
Well, he's a local official.
Local official. And we're talking about why the old hospital site was not made into a convention center, something that could benefit or the town could profit from, something that could add to tourism, be a community center and a tourist center. And
you mean like an enhancement to the community?
Someone I know, I don't remember who, but they come up with an idea a while back and they were talking to me about something like that. Do you remember who that was?
Yeah, I can't imagine.
I don't know. It's crazy. One of these guys that comes up with crazy ideas all the time. But this city official told us at breakfast that the reason this didn't go through was that they couldn't get a quorum, or one person had to be recused because of conflict of interest, and it comes down to a 2-to-1 vote every time that happens. The mayor cannot cast a tie-breaking vote because there are only 3 instead of 4, and so it comes down to a 2-to-1 vote, and they need 3 votes to pass anything. So that means if you only have 3 left in the quorum, it has to be unanimous. That's why nothing ever gets done here.
Hello.
Do you remember any of that conversation?
Oh, I remember the whole conversation. I've been engaged in it for a better part of 4 years living here.
As if I didn't know. What's your take on this, Jim?
Well, I mean, that piece of old property up there where that Hillcrest Hospital used to be.
The one they just leveled. They finally
got to be the most prime commercial spot in town for, are you ready for this?
It's ugly. It's a
hotel.
What?
It's a perfect spot for a hotel.
Oh, you're talking crazy now.
I know.
If that's such a good idea, somebody would have already thought of it.
Boy, how many times have I heard that? No, it would be a perfect spot for a hotel. But they keep saying, well, there's not enough room for parking. And I say, well, did you ever see a parking garage?
What?
And they go, that solid rock underneath that building? And I go, well, wait a minute. Don't we live in the frickin' mining district? You got a couple of hard rock miners unemployed. They might be excited about digging a hole under that new hotel.
We don't know how to move rock.
Don't know how to cut rock. No, we can't drill rock. We can't blast rock. We can't do nothing with rock. It's in our way. We just got to go around it.
We had a business that was going to move from downtown here out to Arenas Valley and take their business with them, a very large business. And they bought the property and they began to excavate. They bought a modular, huge shop building that needed to be assembled, one of these big steel buildings. And they spend a year working on red tape about a water line and a fire hydrant and an easement from the DOT to make a little driveway off of the highway to get into their property. After spending over 2 years and remortgaging their homes and getting more investors to put more money into this, they finally abandoned it and moved to another site, another commercial property.
It was cheaper to just move and do some other idea than it was to deal with the pin-headed bureaucrats in this county.
This was outside the city limits.
Yeah.
But every bit of red tape that they came up against took forever to resolve.
I know. I've seen it lots of times. I've had it happen to me in places I've lived trying to develop a business. You get these idiots in charge of the zoning commission and the county commission and the city commission. They've never owned a business, never run a business, never had to balance books. Yet they're telling business people what and when they can do to be successful.
Now, how do you know they don't have business experience?
Well, you can tell by the way they treat potential businesses.
How do they get into their positions that they hold?
Well, their brother-in-law died, and they were the only person available for the job.
Well, apparently there's one person on this city advisory board or whatever it is that consistently votes against anything that's new or innovative. He's always the one when it's 2-1. Because the gentleman we were speaking with says, yeah, we tried to talk about that idea, but it ain't going to happen now. We've sold it to... It's going to be an HMS.
Well, no, that still is undecided.
Oh, okay.
I think it'd be the biggest mistake in the history of New Mexico to allow another hospital to go up on the old Hillcrest Hospital site. And here's why. They've already spent $900,000+ buying the property, removing the debris. Now they got to get the place assessed to find out how much it's worth. Guess what? I'll bet you it comes in about $350,000 to $400,000. They're only going to lose $500,000 on this deal. I got a great idea. Let's do it again.
Take us through the numbers again. They pay a little. They put a bunch of money into it. Now they're $900,000 into that piece of property.
It is so insane.
And instead, they're going to take a huge loss in selling it. Don't develop it and let the city own it, or the.
Now you tell me. Compare how much gross receipts tax you would collect from a drug clinic, and compare that to what you would get from a hotel with maybe minimal facilities for small conventions and small sales meetings and things. You build a 3-story parking garage underneath the building. When you go down 3 stories, now you're at street level. You let Corey Caminos come in one side of the driveway and pull out the other. You go down to Bullard and Broadway and drop the tourists off. You close Bullard Street, so all you do is walk now on Bullard Street. It's pedestrian friendly. And let's change directions so that we don't have the empty building festival on Bullard Street anymore, and actually promote the development of some businesses. Oh, but wait a minute. In order to do that, you'd have to put somebody in charge of business development that knows how to develop a business. I know that's a novel concept, Tater.
It is. You're speaking in some revolutionary terms here.
Scares them to death.
Apparently. But, you incorporate a little bit of... let's call it, some apropos architecture. Maybe make the thing kind of reminiscent of the cliff dwellings. Maybe even open a shuttle service to drive people up there and let them do some sightseeing on the way to the cliff dwellings in a van.
Oh, but you couldn't do that here, Tater.
That's such a great idea. Somebody already thought of it.
You couldn't do that here because there ain't enough money. There ain't enough money.
Who's going to pay for that?
Who's going to pay for all these things? Where in the world are you going to get the money?
I don't know. We have a bake sale or
I got an idea. They're all so good at writing grants. Let's see if we can get some money from Uncle Sam.
This is Grant County.
It is Grant County.
It's
not a coincidence.
Suppose there's a reason for that.
Yeah. It's also the reason why in the entire United States, New Mexico ranks dead last, 50th out of 50 states when it comes to economic opportunity. And here we are in Grant County where they get all these grants to do all these federal programs. We are dead last in New Mexico. Maybe there's a connection. I don't know.
Folks, let me tell you something. We got trouble here in Silver City, and that starts with T, and that rhymes with P, and that stands for pool.
I've heard that before. Where'd I hear that before?
The Music Man?
The Music Man.
That was Rodgers and Hammerstein?
76 trombones in the big parade. Well, boy, that takes me back, Tater.
With 110 cornets close behind.
See, he knows the song.
They were followed by rows and rows of the finest virtuosos, and that came from all the greatest bands.
And we got trouble right here in Silver City. And that's spelled with T, and that rhymes with P, and that stands for pool.
People, will you look at what's happening around here? I mean, can you believe that people are going in here and playing pool at night?
Pool! Can you believe it?
The devil is sitting right out in the back alley waiting for him to
the devil's taking over the Ute of the county.
Oh, man, I'm telling you. Well, what are you going to do about it?
Not a darn thing. I'm going to just follow their lead and do nothing.
I'm going to follow those two women I just saw walking down the sidewalk a minute ago.
Uh-oh.
You know what I say to your hot pants?
What?
Say, get on down.
Ooh.
You're listening to the Jim and Tater Show
on KOOT 88.1 FM.
Brought to you by Dragon Motors, 1505 Highway 180 East, 388-4767. If you happen to stumble in there, talk to Mike, Gene, or myself, Tater. Used cars and electrical repairs at Dragon Motors. Thank you, Dragon Motors, for sponsoring the Jim and Tater Show.
this girl, I think she's pregnant, and we're headed to San Bernardino. And then when we hit Texas, we'll stop in Amarillo for a bite to eat. We'll stop on over in Dallas and visit my friend, but we can't stay for more than a week. I got the South in my veins, but California in my mouth, and that's a simple reason why I'm leaving the South. Me and this girl, she's so foxy, and we're headed to San Bernardino. Well, that was close, we crossed the Tennessee state border. They would have locked us up by the sheriff's order. Yes, we're freaks, but they can't touch us out west in San Bernardino. And we shall miss Carolina and the East Coast as opposed to the West. But we won't shed any tears, though, nor even be sad, because we know the Western Desert is the best. I filled a bag with cigarettes and apple wine. We'll hit the road again at 10 minutes to 9. Me and this girl, and she's so foxy, and we're headed to San Bernardino.
San Bernardino Sunburn. That's the Eagles of death metal off Peace, Love, Death Metal. You're listening to the Jim and Tater Show on KOOT 88.1 FM, Hurley, New Mexico, Grant County, Silver City, and the Mining District. I'm Tater.
I'm Jim.
Speaking of peace, love, death, and metal, there's a new housing project coming into town, isn't there, Jim?
Oh, yeah. Boy, I tell you what, this brings back old memories.
Please, tell me.
Well, these low-income housing developments that are funded by the government, and organized by the local officials
We're
and everything.
all pretty familiar with them.
They all have great, noble reasons for doing this. You want to help people have a better place to live.
Of course.
But isn't there always an unintended consequence for stupidity?
The cockroaches and the drug dealers?
Yeah, you're going to wind up... It'd be a really nice guy and his wife move into this place wanting to, improve their lot in life. Well, they bring their teenage kids with them, and that's where the problem is. Their teenage kids start having all their old friends from the ghetto come over and visit, and the next thing you know, everybody in the neighborhood's got bars on their doors and alarms and vicious dogs and guns. You cannot make a silk purse out of a sow's ear. I don't care how hard you try.
Or as Ferlin used to say, you can stretch a duck's neck, but you'll never make it a swan.
Boy, ain't that the truth. Look at me.
There's a few people that have wanted to stretch your neck.
There are better ways to resolve this issue. Now, if you go around this area where we live here, do you see a few mobile homes, or what they call mobile homes?
Well, listen, I think this is where you're going. I live at the hilltop, and catty corner to me is a man who is selling those giant shipping containers. And if you come up Highway 180, you'll see a bunch of them sitting out there. They look like train cars or something.
Well, I know
they're shipping containers.
I know they're slightly smaller than a mobile home. They're 8 feet by 8 feet by 40 feet, or 8 by 8 by 20.
Okay.
Well, I found out about this almost secondhand. There was a guy in England that's been taking those shipping containers and converting them into the most interesting living space you ever saw, and selling them as fast as he can build them over in London, because property's so expensive over there. Well, I proposed that to a couple of the officials here in town, and they looked at me like I just came in from a different planet.
If that's such a good idea, somebody would... Well, actually, someone has already.
Right. Well, what they said to me was this: well, you'll never get that through planning and zoning.
Boy, you got that right.
And I'm thinking,
what
wait a
can
minute.
you get through planning
Wait a
and
minute.
zoning?
You can take a few 2x2s and some aluminum siding, and you can turn that into a mobile home, and somebody can live in that, but they couldn't live in a solid steel container that's fireproof, termite-proof, and hurricane-proof. I just want somebody to help me.
It's pretty much tornado-proof, isn't it, compared to a little trailer?
And if you build it right, you can actually fasten it to a concrete pillar on the ground. It ain't going nowhere until you release that locking mechanism.
What do you get, 1 or 2 windows? Or
well, you put windows wherever you want.
How hard is it to cut holes in these things and modify
You just use, they got a device that's like a chainsaw, only it's got a metal cutting wheel on it. Okay. You cut right through it and put a window in.
How thick are the walls, or do you have any idea?
Well, the walls can be insulated inside and out, and then covered with whatever material you want on the outside, and then drywall on the inside. It looks like a regular piece of property when you're done with it. It doesn't look like a shipping container.
No, the advantage is price.
The price, you pay about $3,500 to buy one, about $15,000 to rehab it and put somebody living in it.
You're kidding.
No, for probably less than $30,000, you can have what they used to call a Hollywood type apartment for one person. You put two of them together, you got 3 or 4 people.
Sure.
You can stack them up. Out in the South Pacific, they've had to do this on one of the islands. They've had to actually use these. They've built a 9-story building out of those shipping containers.
Right.
It looks like a high-rise apartment building. It's unreal.
It's a streetcar named Desire. You
No,
know?
it's way better than that. It actually looks like a really nice, state-of-the-art structure.
Well, but you'll never get that through planning and zoning, my friend.
No, there ain't enough. There ain't enough vision in all of Grant County to bicycle your way out of town.
Say that again.
I said there ain't enough vision in all of Grant County to bicycle your way out of town.
Oh, baby, I think I get that joke.
And I'm not trying to be hurtful. I'm
yes,
trying to
you
be
are.
helpful, doggone it.
All right.
You know, I can open my eyes and I can see clearly that there are problems here that are not being resolved.
Yeah.
Maybe somebody new from somewhere else might actually cast a little different perspective on some of these things and offer a solution where you didn't know there was one.
Well, let me get this straight. If you had things your way, people here would be employed, making a decent living wage, and they'd have affordable housing. And what was the other thing?
Now you're dreaming.
And they would have... I forgot the other thing.
Well, they'd probably have
Free speech?
free speech.
No, I forgot it.
How about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness?
You have your way. Cats and dogs will be living together.
Oh, my goodness. You couldn't have that. You mean to tell me that doing what I'm proposing might actually bring people together?
I don't know.
We couldn't have that. Well, the next thing you know, they'll be thinking alike and they'll be acting alike, and we won't be able to control them at all.
Huh. Well, I'd like to thank Drag On Motors, or Dragon Motors, whoever, for
Drag on.
sponsoring today's.
Drag on, baby.
Don't drag on down there. Let me tell you.
No, don't drag on
No,
down there.
you don't want to go down there looking for a car.
Why not?
I don't know.
Oh,
Maybe you should,
maybe you should.
but maybe you shouldn't.
Maybe you should.
I'm not saying.
But, you could
I'm
if
just
you wanted
saying.
to.
You could if you wanted to.
You don't have to.
They have multiple financing
And
options.
ain't nobody going to try to persuade you to either.
No,
You just do it if you choose.
If you happen to have a phone in your hand and you happen to dial 388-4767, or if you happen to come down under the blue awning there at 1505 Highway 180, you might run into Mike, Jim, or Tater.
But just remember,
Sorry,
you
Mike,
always
Gene, or Tater.
you may always have the right to remain silent.
I do. Anything I use can and will be.
Anything you do can and will be said against you.
There you go.
There you go, baby.
This has been the Tater and Jim Show
Jim and Tater.
on KOOT,
88.1 FM,
Hurley, New Mexico.
Silver City,
Hurley, 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 Hurley.
and the Mining District.
Amen.
Amen, brother.
I get the last word on this one.
No, I do.
No, I do.
I do.
Tater,
I do.
Tater,
Jim.
Tater,
Jim.
Tater,
Jim.
Jim. We're joining the service in progress today at the First Church of the Last Chance. The Reverend Jim Tater is speaking after this musical interlude. Has a very touchy subject today that many members of the congregation were afraid may actually get up and walk out on this message. But this is a message that the Reverend really feels strongly about, and we hope you enjoy this message today on the Jim and Tater Show, KOOT 88.1 FM, Hurley, New Mexico.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me.
but now I'm found. Was blinded. Oh, now I can clearly see.
What would you do? A Stanford University professor asked his graduating seniors if you were faced with the following situation. A pregnant woman with 9 children and a history of severe mental illness on both sides of her family has already suffered 3 miscarriages. Syphilis has been reported on her mother's side of the tree. There is a better than even chance that she'll die in childbirth. 3 of her 9 children are mentally or physically challenged. Even if this child survives, it will likely be raised in poverty and want at the hands of a drunken and abusive father. This woman has been referred to you for medical advice. Under these circumstances, would you abort this baby? 92% of the students said yes, to which the professor replied, "Congratulations, you just aborted Beethoven." Abortion may be the single most controversial question of our time, and it quickly divides people, creating high levels of emotion. It puts families and entire communities at odds and allows little fence riding. You're either for it or against it, and no one remains neutral. I believe America will be finished as a great nation if we fail to resolve this issue, one way or the other, once and for all. My position has changed since Roe v. Wade. Once I believed that abortion was a decision best left between a woman and her doctor. I felt compassion on 2 former friends in the 80s and provided them with the financial means to obtain abortions. I defended pro-choice with great zeal, as so many have done for so long. Unfortunately, my compassion was misplaced, and my thinking was misguided by facts that were untrue and experts who were intellectually dishonest. In the late 60s and early 70s, when the controversy began, as a young liberal Democrat, I believed abortion was simply a matter of personal choice. I recall the great debates at the universities and in the media between well-respected physicians and other experts. The doctor who started the National Abortion Rights Action League, NARAL, and speakers from the women's movement debated the pro-lifers, and that now seems to have been a catalyst for legalizing abortion. Those experts told us life does not begin until the end of the 3rd trimester. They told us that the fetus felt no pain. They told us there was no other option in cases of rape and incest. They told us it was no different than any other surgical procedure. But the facts and truth as they presented them were questionable at best. 20 years later, I saw the same doctor on the 700 Club. He said he left NARAL several years before and had done a complete about-face on his abortion stance. And he said in the beginning it was all just about money. The truth was that in order to find a way to create an industry around abortion, a group of doctors, lawyers, and business leaders came together and lied to us so we would become accepting of the wholesale slaughter of our children. He said they knew the American people would never accept abortion on demand, so they coined the term pro-choice. The idea of killing or aborting babies would be impossible to sell to America, so they committed to using the terms fetus or fetal tissue. And they coined phrases like termination and viability of the fetus. With the discovery of DNA and the number of babies now surviving earlier in the 2nd and 3rd trimester, he said, we must revisit the case law. After hearing his testimony to the fraud that has been perpetrated on us, I became outraged and extremely saddened that we had made such an important decision based on fraudulent data. And I decided to do whatever I could to undo this national nightmare. I believe the answer to our national stalemate will be found in the United States Constitution, because the law is the tool that separates us from barbarism. It is the arbiter for resolving our differences and the protector from doing harm to one another. Law establishes the foundation from which free people can defend and govern themselves and their affairs. You weaken that foundation even slightly, and the future is at risk. I believe the most important constitutional principle that separates us from the barbarian is the protection of the innocent. Never has it been found as well defined and applicable as in our Constitution. The right of a trial by jury of your peers, to be faced by your accusers, guilt proven beyond a reasonable doubt, protection against double jeopardy, cruel and unusual punishment, due process, and protection against unlawful searches and seizures. All of these were woven into the Constitution in order to limit the possibility of being imprisoned for a crime you did not commit, and to protect the innocent from grievous harm by others. In a court of law, minor children are represented by an attorney ad litem. Doesn't it seem appropriate that someone should speak for the unborn children as well? Recently, a doctor was performing an abortion on a 17-week fetus, and the procedure failed, and the baby survived. This little girl is alive today and about to celebrate her 3rd birthday. Is she less of a human being because she was born at 17 weeks? Was she entitled to constitutional protection for the remainder of her 2nd and 3rd trimester? Can we now agree that life probably begins at least at 17 weeks, contrary to Roe v. Wade? Isn't it time to revisit these cases since the facts on the ground have changed? Are we unwilling to admit that the facts have changed in the last 40 years? Now that we've proven that more than half of all abortions are a matter of convenience or birth control, can we as a nation ever have a clear conscience regarding the destruction of so many of our own kind? Who will speak for those unable to speak for themselves? Have the law and the Constitution only been created to protect those fortunate enough to survive the first 9 months of their life? I appeal on behalf of reason and common sense to consider the importance of protecting the innocent. If the foundation of our nation rests upon a principle that protects the innocent and then becomes impotent in protecting the most innocent among us, aren't we as a people doomed to become uncivilized barbarians? Benjamin Franklin, after signing the Declaration of Independence, remarked, "We must all hang together, or most assuredly we shall hang separately." Thomas Jefferson, in his opening, said, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal and endowed by that Creator with the unalienable right to life." The first line of the Constitution reads, "We the people, in order to form a more perfect union," has our union now been made more perfect by the extermination of 50 million of our brothers and sisters? Akin to the revulsion felt at the discovery of the horror at Auschwitz and Treblinka, the silence of these children should be a deafening roar, waking a comatose nation to action. We can never know if that next aborted child could have been the one, given time and circumstances, that found the cure for AIDS or cancer. As the good professor queried, "What would you do? Would you abort Beethoven?"